Welcome to Chatter, no frills tech news with the top 5 stories of the day, straight from the app. Today we talk about why AI might not be the top thing this year, Bloomberg, chemistry, why the latest AI models are so much better than the old ones, and AI teachers. So with this full docket, let's get into it. First story, why AI might not be the top thing in 2025. And this is sort of not what I was certainly expecting, because many of us think that AI is gonna rocket forward this year, now that everyone is already used to AI and there's so much investment in that space. But the argument that the article is making is that specifically around content. So because AI content is so cheap, it's going to flood all channels, be it LinkedIn, Twitter, X, or also video format in terms of YouTube, TikTok, etc., that users are just gonna dislike it. And what users then are going to lack is sort of the trust in the content. So if it's just AI generated content and you're getting used to it, you're sort of just starting to swipe through it. And the point the article is trying to make is that it's really the top creators that have the trust are going to benefit the most, because they already have the trust and they can use AI tools to improve productivity so that they keep posting a lot of videos or text or articles, while at the same time being highly productive thanks to AI. Whereas newcomers that don't have that same platform, that same initial base, that same trust, are going to have it increasingly difficult to break through. And that's why AI might not be the big thing for some of us in the content space this year. Interesting take. As always, you can always read it up in full length with expert quotes in our app, Chatter. Just check it out if you haven't already. So with that, let's move on. Why Bloomberg is the godfather of data products. Bloomberg is really, everyone who ever worked in finance knows Bloomberg. The terminal is the place to be if you're looking for information, data analytics, if you're executing a certain workflow. And that's really why Bloomberg is so much ahead of any of the other competitors in that space. And the reason we picked up the story is how critical their product has been for that space. This can serve as an example. If you're thinking about building a data product or something that is really selling data or information or analytics, Bloomberg could really be the role model, because it's the number one company that really pioneered this model in the 80s or 70s even, and has significantly expanded their market leadership in the last couple of years, even though there are so many competitors trying to get them. So how did they do it? So first off, let me start with like a staggering fact that Bloomberg's ticker plan processes over 200 billion pieces of financial information every day, delivering it to you in real time. And so the sheer amount of data they're incorporating in their system is already impressive. But I think, for me at least, my takeaway from the story was the one thing that Bloomberg has really going for them, in contrast to some of their competitors like FactSet, is that they're not just have data in some places, or they have sort of analytics in other places, and it's all there. In theory, everyone has access to financial information. What Bloomberg really built is a workflow platform, right? You have the information and you can trade on it, and you have everything in one place, and it's very easy for users to navigate that space and to action on it. So that it's sort of like the whole package that makes it irrelevant to use other tools or tools that complement certain workflows. So it's really all in one place, and ease of user is sort of like the key takeaway that for those of us who build data heavy products could really benefit to really think deep about. Next up, we have a story from how AI is cracking chemistry. So this is for our science fiction fans. I think what we heard a couple of times already on this podcast was that AI is really helping material sciences advancing, because material science is sort of like the perfect field for AI to make an impact. AI needs data, it needs logs, it sort of needs a metric so that it knows what good looks like, right? So if you have a lot of data and you can always measure how good looks like, then you can build an algorithm that just extracts hidden patterns within that data set to create the best possible algorithm to optimize a certain metric. And with material science, that usually is the case, although it might be quite expensive. So this article picks up a case study about solar cells. So within solar cells, the metric is efficiency. So depending on which materials they're using, these panels have a different efficiency, and obviously the better the efficiency, the better it is for the user, because the sun gets converted more effective into electricity. So it's really important that it has a profound impact on our society, on the economics of the space. And it's just another practical example how AI is really helping them. Obviously, the critics say, well, it's still expensive to invest in annotate large data sets to test it. The results they're so far in are mainly, laboratory based, so they're not done in the real world at scale. So we might have some time until that really becomes a really profound impact and not just theoretical gains. Talking about gains, I think this is one of the questions that interested me the most recently is, how is OpenAI's new model O3 different than GPT-4? Because obviously they use the same architecture at points, but they work slightly different. And what we've seen is that in some of the reasoning benchmarks, these new models are substantially better, even though it uses the same technology, quote unquote. So for instance, the O3 model achieved a 50% on ARC AGI test compared to near 0% for GPT-4. So this is just a difference, a night and day difference from 0% to 50%. And the main difference is that O3 also uses GPT-4, but it uses a technique called chain of thought, or in scientific terms, it says test time program synthesis, which basically means that the model is creating an action plan, creating individual steps, and then formulating these steps, feeding it back into the main model, and so creating that chain of thought. And that really creates performance gains specifically for reasoning tasks, because now AI sort of works like we all do as knowledge workers, that, when we're trying to solve something, we start somewhere, we're researching one topic that informs how we look at the second topic, and not just output information based on how we pre-trained a certain model or what we've read in the past. It will always be better if we move, step by step by step by step. And this technique is going, in my opinion, really dominate this year. This is going to be the biggest topic of this year, because as these techniques become more efficient and more economically viable, then all of those tasks like doing market research, looking at competitors, that usually you really want to have some expert look at it or engage a consultancy, are becoming just low-hanging fruit for these model providers to enable users to do. We already see, like ChatGPT with the new $200 subscription, that it's not going to be easy. Like from these tests, some of those runs to solve certain problems cost thousands of dollars. So it's expensive for personal use. Like I wouldn't use this to maybe find or ask O3 to plan my next birthday party or something. But for businesses who have, if you ask a business, hey, I give you this problem, how are we successful in our market today? Come back in a month and we spend $1 million on a compute. It might be worth it, right? Even if it just helps a little bit. So my take is that chain of thought is really going to dominate this year in AI land. Now, last topic for today, Mr. AI or Mrs. AI now teaches math. And this was a story that was run based on Arizona State Charter Board, who approved a school that uses a 2-hour curriculum slot every day where AI is teaching the students. And obviously there were attention-grabbing headlines saying AI is replacing teachers, and by looking through what they're actually approved, it's slightly different, slightly more nuanced. So it was worth taking a look, but it's certainly an interesting experiment. So basically in this 2-hour window, what students are doing is I wouldn't say homework, but it's sort of like self-paced study, so in the style of like Khan Academy or related tools. And the potential benefits here is obviously that the task that the students have to solve can be personalized. So maybe students who are more challenged in one field or the other can be more supported, whereas students that are already excelling at certain tasks, they can be further helped or further helped to accelerate. Whereas like if you just have one teacher, everyone gets the same program, quote unquote. So it can help with these personalized stories, at least in theory. And obviously for schools, especially for private schools, the interesting part is cost savings. So if they can allocate maybe 20, maybe 30, 40% of students' time, not to teachers that they have to pay salaries for, but maybe for more economical, viable AI spending, that's obviously an interesting business proposal. But the arguments that are written in the article that criticize this approach is that obviously a teacher can provide much more information than just an AI, right? It's not just providing information. Every student can get information by Googling, using ChatGPT, etc. What teachers are doing are inspiring, are driving students, are motivating students. So that whole human component of helping someone develop, helping someone learn is then missing. So it might just be that little slot is an experiment worth running, but that's it, at least for now. What I also found interesting, the school, I would say, is rather progressive. It calls their teachers guides, not teachers. It's the way I see it, it's just an isolated experiment where someone could benefit from having that just additional time of personalized care or personalized learning that maybe opens up the aperture for students to go down individual paths, but still have the bulk of their education fairly standard or fairly beneficial in more components than just knowledge transfer. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening to this Chatter broadcast, and I hope I see you in the next one. Like and subscribe.